I want to show you how I use edible images on my cake. So I always go to my cake in the refrigerator and measure the side and the top of the cake to make sure that I can print these images out the correct size so they will fit on there. And I always print them out first on my regular printer. This is not edible paper, just regular printer paper ink. And I go over to my cake and I hold them up there to make sure that they fit on there. And then I will print them out on my edible printer and I let it sit for about 5 minutes so that ink can dry. Then I roll out fondant really thin, and it has this Tylose powder mixed into it. This is going to help the fondant set hard so it will hold its shape. And then I peel the backing off and I cut each picture out individually so they're not all connected. And then I like to cut a thin white border around all of these pictures. I just think it looks better having a little white border. It looks a lot cleaner. But you can't always cut a white border around the image because some images don't have a white border. So in that case, I will cut exactly along the picture and then add the border in fondant. I will show you what I mean. So I have all of these cut out. These ones here have the white border and those two over here do not. So I flip them upside down on a paper towel. I get a little bit of piping gel and I brush the piping gel on the back and I go off of the edge, making sure that the edges are coated in piping gel as well. And when I put it down, I kind of curve it and push it down. That way no air bubbles are going to form behind it. Now, since this one did not have a white border, I'm cutting the white border with the fondant. So I'm getting really close and just making sure I cut an even white border around here. And anytime I cut anything out of fondant, I want to take my fingers and just smooth those rough edges. And then the ones that have the white border, I could just take my X-Acto knife and cut exactly around the edge of the image and smoothing my cuts. And I like to put them on a cutting board. That way they are going to dry flat and hold their shape and stick off of the cake. So here are all of the images. I'm setting them aside for a couple days. And what I like to do every day, I turn them upside down so they can dry the fondant from the back and then turn them right side up the next day. If you want it to dry with a curve to it, you can grab a cake dummy the size of the cake that it's going on. This is already dried flat, but just press it down on the cake dummy and it will dry with a curve to it so you can put it on the cake and it will contour to the cake. If you don't have a cake dummy, you can always get a Ziploc bag and store your images in there. That way they will remain pliable and you will be able to put them on the cake and contour them to the cake without cracking them. So I got my cake out of the refrigerator and I am going to put these on the cake. I like to hold it up, see where it's touching the cake. Then I'm going to get a little bit of buttercream icing behind the sections that are touching the cake and then just press that on there to adhere it. So again, hold the image up, see where it's touching the cake, and just get a little bit of icing behind it where it's touching and press that down. And I like to do that for all of them. So I just like to hold them up first, see where they look best before I get the icing behind them, and then just pay attention to where it's touching the cake. That right side is touching the cake, so I'm just getting icing on that right side and putting it down. This way, the images are sticking out a little bit from the cake, and it gives it just a different look, a little more modern, rather than just sticking them all against the cake. And then for the topper, again, pay attention to where it's touching the top, press that down, and any icing that's seeped out of the back, I just take a dry paintbrush and remove it. But here is the cake, and you see how it looks with all of the flat images. I just love the way it looks. So I do it on a lot of cakes. Like this cake, all of these images dried flat. But like I said, I don't always make the images flat. This one, I wanted to contour the images to the shape of the cake. And sometimes I do a mixture between both. That one in the middle is contoured and the ones on the bottom are flat. But no matter if I am drying them flat or with a curve to them, I always adhere them to a piece of fondant so they don't wrinkle and they can hold their shape.